welcome back to Mediaweek. Time to talk media news. And of course, James Manning, one of the big ones at the moment. The Prime Minister versus News Limited again escalating this week.
Yeah, it got pretty ugly, especially on Tuesday of this week. Sort of all started with the end of last week. Andrew Bolt put a blog post up which referred to some incidents in the sort of Prime Minister's past. I understand management said, look, we don't want you to pursue this. That sort of annoyed him, and he later revealed he considered resigning, took some went to some friends and colleagues and thought, looking for some guidance, I guess, decided not to. In the end, management ended up coming up supporting him. Glenn Milne wrote a column for The Australian on Monday, subsequently taken down after the Prime Minister approached News Limited management. Tuesday it really started to get a bit ugly, but it's sort of everybody's sort of it's dampened down a lot since then. So I think we won't see much more of this. I don't think there's no winners here really for this. The Prime Minister doesn't want it to sort of get out of hand. She says, look, it's all been dealt with in the past. This News Limited, there's no win for them in this. If it might spark a media inquiry, nobody wants one of those.
What do you think? I mean, because in the background, that's a big thing at the moment, isn't it? I mean, they're still deliberating on whether or not to actually launch a formal media inquiry.
We've got sort of one underway anyway, this Convergence review. Do we need another one? Definitely not. It'll drag on forever. People have to spend a lot of time and resources sort of doing reports and which won't probably lead to anything. So yeah, it's interesting. There's another thing, a TUE in Sydney, a guy called Michael Smith. People might know him from Paul Murray's show on the sister channel Sky News. He's sort of had an interview with the union official, which Fairfax Radio hasn't been letting him put to air, and he's really gone out on a limb in this one. And you get the feeling he's been sort of threatened. He sort of almost said as much on air. Look, I'm really considering which way forward with this for me. So there's a bit of collateral damage there too.
Look, another I suppose big item in terms of media news, and a little bit of an embarrassing one, Choppergate, as it's been termed. Sure. Channel 9 dismissing those reporters, and of course the news director as well from Brisbane resigning.
Yeah, I mean, going on what we know, and people say, look, there's a lot of stuff that hasn't been revealed yet, and I don't know whether it'll come out or not, but on what we know, you think, well, perhaps Channel 9 took the only action they could. They invest a lot of money in their news brand. It's the core part of the business offering for those free-to-air channels. They're
building trust with the
absolutely, yeah, and if you think that's been eroded, it's an interesting case though, isn't it? I mean, there was no actual news falsified or anything. That what was done wrong was that, where they were reporting from was not accurately reflected, So
one of the helicopters still on the chopper pad?
Yeah, one of the choppers was on the chopper pad, another one was hovering, but not over where the viewers were led to believe it was. So look, Channel 9 wanted to nip that in the bud, send out a message, which they've done to their viewers. And
a little bit of rivalry there with Seven. Was it Seven that had filmed, I believe?
Seven, actually, it was an interesting story. A guy of Seven reporter was at home, working on his barbecue in the backyard. He noticed a chopper up in the air and he's wondering why that was there. Did a bit of investigating, found out that I was somewhere where they were sort of, intimating it wasn't, So they did a bit of research, filmed the following night. It happened again and got some footage, And you can imagine the fun they would have had with it, perhaps, if Nine didn't take the action they did.
And Fairfax as well, obviously, since last week, Mediaweek showing has indicated cut costs by about $85 million, a fair amount of cash. Do we know where?
There wasn't a lot of guidance on where that was going. We expect the biggest cuts will be in that sort of ongoing negotiations they're having with News on sort of combining their press facilities. Instead of these two massive plants. In Sydney, they're not far from each other. In Melbourne, they're sort of a fair way away. And in Melbourne, the Fairfax plant's a bit newer, so it might be harder decommissioning that, if you like. But there's some big savings to be made there. And in New Zealand, of course, APN and Fairfax are the big media print operators, so there's some big savings to be made there. Got a big capital cost, big labour costs. So if they can do that, I think probably the bulk of the savings will be made there.
So you don't think there'd be any concerns amongst staff that you could see sort of cutbacks in terms of the editorial?
Yeah, there would be. The editorial, no, I don't think so. They've already gone through a fair, taken a bit of a haircut there on staff numbers, sharing content between the papers. That's sort of, there could be sort of some scope for that continuing, and natural attrition, I guess. People perhaps not being replaced when they go.
And radio now, some big shake-ups, in particular Nova shake-up in terms of breakfast radio teams as well as a drive team. Merrick Watts, after being with them from the beginning.
First voice when they launched back in 2001. His last show on Friday of this week. Your radio stations really don't like fiddling with the breakfast show because it's like your for TV equivalent as your 6 p.m. newsreaders, I guess. You really don't want to rock the boat there. It's the it's the core offering from the channel. It's where you get your biggest audiences, your biggest revenue from advertisers. So and we're going to see on Monday week, we're going to see Nova with new breakfast shows both in Brisbane and in Sydney, two of their biggest revenue markets. So they'll be pinning big things on that. The people's careers could be on the line if those things don't work.
And it's pretty, I suppose a lot of the industry is just pretty cutthroat, and lots of Nova struggling a little bit in the ratings as well, as you say. This is a big move for them.
Yeah, under a bit of pressure. Fitzy and Whip have got the job in Sydney, and they've recalled some of the original on-air team for up in Nova Brisbane, and they've poached one of the opposition sort of key players up there, so there'll be interesting times.
And Triple M as well announcing a new team, Ray Warren.
Yeah,
the rugby league.
Ray Warren. Could he be the new Hamish and Andy, Ray and Dan Ganane? So they're going to do for the month of September. There's a Triple M format called Rush Hour, which is quite successful for them in Melbourne. Billy Boundless and James Brayshaw hosted down there. Very AFL flavoured show. They have a bit of other stuff as well, and that'll be the plan up here. Be good to generate a bit of revenue for them. They don't have an existing drive show, so definitely a bit of an opening there for them.
And online, an Adelaide Internet TV venture running into a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, AustraliaLive.com. I mean, most people will have never heard of this because it was a very brave play. It didn't involve huge amounts of money, but I guess we say that the people who owed it will think that's a huge amounts of money. It went pear-shaped. It's the wild frontier still for broadcasting, the internet, because it's not regulated. Anybody can start broadcasting. You've got there's music copyrights, of course, but if you're just doing talk and stuff like that, you can just you can go crazy. But they employed some people. We're expecting the audiences to follow. It just didn't happen.
Interesting. Ida Buttrose very much back in the news, not only apparently running for mayor, but back on the front cover of a former magazine.
Yeah, cover story on Australian Women's Weekly. It's been a great story, Australian Women's Weekly, of course, the last couple of years. Been a few editorial changes. They seem to have got the mix right now. There she is on the cover. And of course, she's never been more in the news than she has at the moment, I guess. It's amazing.
Is it? I mean, Channel 9. She's on the breakfast show as well. It seems to have been a great sort of launch for her as well.
Yeah. So you got to wonder if they've got some other plans for her. Maybe some spin-off, her own sort of talk show or something. I'm sure there's lots of ideas being thrown around.
ACP 30 Days of Fashion and Beauty starts this week. A Vogue fashion night out. I imagine a bit of a hot ticket. I imagine for a few people in the industry. Yeah.
Well, there's two sort of things there. There's ACP having the whole month of September. It's the 5th year they're doing this. They see it as their way of sort of giving something back to some of their advertisers, if you like, building up some interest in retail, getting the sort of people back out into the stores. Combank's one of their big the sponsors there, and they sort of promote their credit cards. It's been a very tough year for retail, and of course, and their news magazines are doing a one-off night they call Vogue's Fashion Night Out. That's on September 8 here in Sydney, and 600 retailers are involved, so it's a pretty big deal. And again, there's lots of specials, sort of one-off sales, special items they bring in just for the night, try and generate a bit of revenue. It's sort of pull at cats and dogs last year, and it was still seen as a success, so they'll be hoping for some finer weather this time.
Look, an interesting one announced, The Chaser returning to TV. Well, I'm excited about it, but I imagine there may be potentially a few pollies not quite so excited.
Yeah, interesting, isn't it? They're coming back 8 shows, will be on the ABC. You can expect it to go to their Wednesday nights. Wednesday nights doing very well for ABC. This week the ABC actually outrated 10 and 9 on Wednesday night, so it's become a bit of a go-to destination on Wednesday nights. Of course, Grew and Transfer is responsible for that. So yeah, you can expect that by the time Grew and finishes, they'd like to segue just into the Chaser, which will take them through most of the ratings year, I would have thought.
How much of a worry do you think the slip we've seen in ratings for Underbelly on Channel 9? I mean, it really is one of their big sort of masthead sort of shows.
they wouldn't be concerned yet. I mean, the all-up figures for the 2.79 million watched that first episode, which was pretty amazing. Set a record for Australian drama. The numbers have tumbled a little bit. Expect the final figures for the second week to be just around 2 million, just under 2 million. So it's not much of a fall off. It's going to fall off anyway. But look, as long as they stay above 1.5, they'll be more than chuffed with that.
What about Seven's X Factor? How's it going?
Look, it's a runaway first week. We're in the first week.
Really?
Yeah, it's done fantastic business. It was seen as a moderate hit last year. Channel 7 had to think long and hard about whether they'd go again, because it's a very expensive show for them, so they'd be really thrilled with the way it's been doing, and the shareholders will be very happy with that too. They're 4 nights its first week. I believe they're running another 4 nights in its second week, and then it'll head to Monday and Tuesday nights. But it's doing the sort of business that Australia's Got Talent did earlier this year. Fremantle Media is the company that make that for them, so they're having a fantastic year. There's a bit of news from Fremantle too. They look like they might be starting up another production business, so we might have some news on that next week.
And with something like the X Factor, I mean, do people, once they, if you get something, a great couple of first shows that rate well, does it tend to flow through because people get emotionally attached to the
you get a bit of momentum, you know, and they've made some significant changes. They've thrown the net a lot wider for talent this year, so you can be as young as 14. So just in the first week, that's thrown up some really fascinating contestants who are 14-year-olds, you know. You think, wow.
What about 10? How are programming? With 9 and 7 got a couple of good things going. Without MasterChef, how's 10 looking? 10's hit a bit of a brick wall. I think we might have mentioned this briefly previously. They were, you know, MasterChef's their flagship program. They'd expect that to build some momentum, but the audience just disappeared the night after MasterChef ended, and they haven't come back. The Renovators was their big hope there. That's still sort of doing really poor numbers. The 10 have really stuck by it though. You've got to give them some, you know, be very loyal to the people that make Renovators for them and giving it a red hot go. Right, let's take a look at the ratings for week 35. This is now for free to air. The Block finale and Underbelly Razor dominating the top 5 this week. The Block winner announced the auction in first and second, followed by episode 1 of Underbelly Razor was in third. The Block grand finale in fourth, and Underbelly episode 2 came in at 5th place. Turning the page and Packed the Rafters came in 6th, followed by 9 News Sunday in 7th, and 7 News Sunday came in 8th spot, 7 News in 9th, and Winners and Losers rounding out the top 10 this week. What do you make of being dominated by 7?
Yeah, it was interesting. We had, I think, 9 had those top 5 shows. I think we've seen that all year, so it was a fantastic little spurt for them. Yeah. 7's still doing well, and I think it's going to be a while before we see Channel 10 pushing their way back into that top 10 programs.
They need MasterChef back. Maybe we'll get another Kids MasterChef.
Junior MasterChef isn't far away.
They're doing that again, are they?
Yeah. So that's a bit of light at the end of the tunnel. I'm sure that'll do pretty well. But it's only going to be 2 nights a week.
Let's take a look at some of the other ratings now. This is for subscription television. The ratings for week 35. The top 5 sport programs first, and in rugby, as we were mentioning before, the Bledisloe Cup, Australia versus New Zealand, was in the top spot, followed by the NRL Knights versus Broncos in second, and the Bulldogs versus Knights came in third. The Sea Eagles versus the Bulldogs was in fourth, and the Cowboys versus the Sharks came in at 5th this week. Now to non-sport, and Australia's Next Top Model in number 1 spot, followed by EastEnders in second. Project Runway Australia was in third, The Simpsons in fourth, and Coronation Street rounding out the top 5. I didn't realise we were so into English soaps.
Yeah, the soaps are a very big part of it. I mean, that's what they say about the offering of subscription TV, you know, programs that would appeal to a very, you know, mightn't have a business model they'd work on free-to-air, but UK TV does very well with those UK soaps.
Good to see a Foxtel producer, an Australian producer, Australia's Next Top Model also getting in there.
Yeah,
and coming
Project Runway up there, of course, yep, and that's, you know, as both Brian Walsh and Kim Williams have said on this program before, it's one of the things that Foxtel's changed. They've really invested heavily in Australian productions to sort of try and, as a new offering as part of their subscription, you know, lure to viewers that, look, we're not only the home of some great international programs, but we've got some real, you know, pillar programs that we make here.
Look, James, great to have you on. Always a pleasure. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, James.
James Manning there. That is all we have time for on this edition of Media Week from the team here. Thanks for your company.